heard. So listen, Pope Francis is now criticizing laws that criminalize homosexuality, calling them, quote, unjust. So that was real tentative, audience. Slow golf clap. Listen, he did an interview with the Associated Press, and the Pope said that being homosexual is not a crime, although it is still a sin. Just saying that is very hard. According to Human Rights Watch, at least 67 countries, the majority in Africa and the Middle East, still have laws against same-sex relationships. Okay, so Miles, the Pope, people listen when the Pope speaks. So how influential is this latest statement?
I mean, yes, it's like kind of like, oh, I'm gonna dip my toe into the water and like see how the reaction is. Like, yes, I really hope that there's going to be like larger conversations that might come out of this, like in these types of countries that are celebrating the religion. But I don't know. I mean, queer people, we exist. We've always existed, and we will continue to exist. Long before religion was created, and I think it's really frustrating, that like still to this day we're having these types of conversations, and that there's like literally over 60 plus countries that it's like a death sentence or a criminal offense to be just who I was born to be, So I don't know. I really hope for for a more positive outcome from this, that maybe it'll ignite more conversations, but it's really hard to say.
Yeah. I've had the exact same feeling. I was like, oh, it's a teeny tiny step, but that follow-up with it, but it's still a sin. To me, that matters. Saying that again, I'm picturing the person who is a devout Catholic who has always struggled maybe with this. So maybe they have a relative who's getting married and they have felt like, oh, I cannot participate in that. Maybe this announcement from the Pope will make them be like, oh, I guess I can. But then the other side of me is like, maybe it'll still make them double down. It's like, okay, it's not illegal, but it's not illegal here anyway. So it's still a sin, so I still can't support it. And until that language changes, I don't think we're going to see any meaningful change in terms of homophobia, in terms of like the way the LGBTQ plus community struggles with, suicides and all kinds of things that are as a direct result of being rejected. And to me, until that changes, I'm not gonna be like, I will do a golf clap, because it's not really worthy of any large applause, in my opinion.
Like, you shouldn't be killed, but you're still wrong.
Right.
You're still like not right.
And you know what, also, like the thing that bugs me the most is that, as somebody who was raised Catholic, is that Jesus, saying, oh, it's still a sin, is so judgy, especially considering that Jesus didn't judge. His whole thing was not judging. The only people he judged were people who didn't support the poor. So I just feel like this whole rhetoric of focus is like, we need to shift the dial, right? We need to be like, people should be more outraged at people who don't support the poor, as opposed to people who are doing these behind closed doors. Anyway.
I said it once, and I said it before, someone who was also raised Catholic, Jesus was an activist. If you go back in time, Jesus would be a lot more like Greta Thunberg than Jeff Bezos. Just saying. Listen, you guys know that I've struggled with this a lot, because the real question for me as someone raised Catholic is, do you stay in the church and change the church from within? Or do you leave the church and try to make change from without? And that's a big question, because I said this before, my family, devout Catholics, and there is so much good that the church has done, especially in poorer countries. This is the place you go to get food, for shelter, for education, for hope, schools getting built, homes being built. The church does do good work. And the flip side is the immense harm that the church has done under the flag of God. And we know about residential schools, and we know about child abuse, sex scandals, et cetera. So, I struggle with this, because I don't think the Pope has gone far enough. If you're not gonna actually change the doctrines and the laws that are literally written in books in the Vatican, then guess what? No bishop, no cardinal, no archbishop, they're all off the hook. Nobody has to do anything, so the status quo continues, and people continue to suffer.
Yeah,
I hear you. I mean, like I said, golf clap is about the maximum, and the whole "it's a sin" thing is gross, because this is nature. This is how people are. I will say though that I'm married to someone who's from Poland, and in Poland, they are moving increasingly to the right, to more and more oppressive laws. And an oppressive situation to the LGBTQ plus community. And Poland is 80% Catholic. that's an overwhelming majority of Polish people are Catholic. And so I think that for communities who are in countries that are overwhelmingly Catholic, I'm interested to know what their perspective is, because like it or not, their laws are determined by religion. There's supposed to be separation of church and state, but in those kinds of countries, their laws are supported by, the clergy, what the Catholic Church is saying. And so for them, for many LGBTQ people living in Poland, for example, yesterday was a big deal. Yes. Yesterday wasn't the whole deal.
Because it's still illegal there.
Yes, because they can shut you down. They can oppress you. They can seriously physically harm you. Definitely people are physically harmed here, but at the same time, it's not like the government isn't actively, has a piece of paper behind it, is what I'm trying to say. So I feel like, to put it in perspective into different places in the world, they might see this a little bit differently, like more than golf clap, maybe a clap of relief. I also wasn't super happy about this, yesterday when the news first came down, but then I started trying to learn about the situation and being guided by other activists in the area, and I wanted to know what they thought. And so I looked to Charlotte Clymer, who is a trans activist, and this is what they put on Twitter. Charlotte said, criticizing Pope Francis for not being progressive enough is just completely missing the forest for the trees. He's calling upon every country to decriminalize homosexuality. We need to encourage that. We need to amplify that. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. It made me sit, right? It made me sit with how do we achieve progress? Do we do it in one perfect strike? Or do we do it in a series of small steps? As pathetic as the Catholic Church has been, let me just put that on the record here. As pathetic as the Catholic Church has been in the past, don't we take the small wins where we can? I don't know. That's what Charlotte was trying to teach me, and I'm trying to think about that.
That's a really good perspective.
Hey there, wasn't that great? Do you know where you can find some equally good content? Our YouTube page. It's filled with discussions, debates, and some laughs. Head there now, like and subscribe.